Welcome to the Friends of Zane Adams, aka FOZA podcast, bringing awareness of postpartum depression, suicides, and the children who are left behind. We'll be spotlighting positive outcomes from mothers as well as healthcare experts and counselors. Would you know the signs of PPD? Would you know how to help a loved one? Stay tuned. As a community, we can do more to support maternal mental wellness.
Greetings, everyone. This is Paulette Smith with Friends of Zane Adams, aka FOZA Inc. We are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to bringing awareness and resources to support sufferers of postpartum depression, to prevent maternal suicides, and to support the children who are left behind. We strive to stop the stigma, the silence, the suicides, and the suffering that often accompanies maternal mental health issues. Now, before I begin, I need to say a few words about triggers. This is a safe place. However, we may discuss topics that can be sensitive and may act as a trigger for some of our members or members of our audience. The content we discuss serves to provide information for educational and advocacy purposes only. If you are experiencing an emergency, call the National Crisis Hotline, 800-273-8255. If you cannot afford consultation, please visit FOZAinc.org and provide us your contact information.
Greetings, FOZA fans, and welcome to another podcast dedicated to bringing awareness to postpartum depression and the hope that's surrounding you at every corner. Everywhere you turn, you are not alone. Not for one moment, not for 1 second. And FOZA hopes you'll bookmark our podcast page so that these moments, when you feel you need a lift, you can come back for a powerful engagement with positive vibes and positive people. Now today, our guest is Arielle Wozniak. She's a maternal mental wellness coach and founder of the organization Defeat PPD. This is an organization with a goal to empower women to overcome depression and anxiety in motherhood without medication. Now, Arielle is bringing us good news that's biblically based with a holistic approach to healing and making the connection with the mind, body, and spirit. You listen to her as a mother, a coach, and a conqueror. You'll be as uplifted as I was. She shares her experience with postpartum depression and how she developed the Defeat PPD programs, trainings, and principles to successfully overcome depression and anxiety medication-free. And this episode is going to be like one we've never had, so stay to the end and be ready to be grateful. And let's not wait any longer. Here she is, Arielle Wozniak. Hi there, Arielle, and welcome to the FOZA podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, you know, we're excited to have you. And I'm especially excited because every time I hear you speak about the beginning of your journey, I'm hearing a story that's still being lived and repeated to me each day. Each day I hear one of our postpartum moms tell me some of the things that I hear you say in the beginning of your journey. So I want every moment we have here with you today to be spent with our audience, just learning more about you, your breakthrough, and the birth of your organization, Defeat PPD.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, do you want me to just kind of jump right in? I can tell you more about my journey and my story.
Jump right in, because for me, I've heard it many times, but I just want you to go ahead at anywhere you feel comfortable getting started, telling us about yourself and your organization.
Absolutely. So whenever I try to start this story, it's always like, where do I start and give the bulk of the information that really tells you about who I am and why I do what I do? And I always feel like I have to start kind of back before having children. So before having children, I thought for sure that I had my plan for life. I was going to be super successful, and success to me meant climbing the corporate ladder. I had planned to live in New York City. At the time, I lived in Connecticut, so it was like the next city over that was really big to us, and like to me it symbolized success. And so that's what I thought I would do with my life. And when I got to my senior year in college, I met my now husband, and everything changed. I had no plans of getting married. I had no plans of having children, and it all changed really quickly. So within a year's time of us actually meeting each other, we ended up getting married, and then we had my first son, Abram, who is now 9 years old.
Wow.
And so it was like a whirlwind of just things happening so quickly. And like I said, I had that vision in my head for so many years of who I thought I would be. And really coming to the realization that I am not becoming who I thought I would become was really hard for me. And so that's really what I think led me to postpartum depression the first time. I've experienced it twice. So that first time after having my son, and really throughout the process of like getting ready to have a child, it was just such a huge adjustment and such a huge change from who I thought I would be in life. And to me, at the time, I didn't view success as having a family and getting married. Like, I never had those dreams. Like, out of all my friends, everyone wanted to get married, and they were so excited about that. And, like, that was just never even on my radar. Like, I did not think that would be me. And so coming to, like, this place where I had to just realize that I was giving up who I thought I would be in exchange for someone else was really a big challenge. And so I went through this prenatal kind of depression thing, and I saw a therapist, which didn't really work out very well because I was not participating in the therapy. I literally came and I would sit on her couch for our 45-minute session. She would ask me questions, and I would say yes or no, and I thought that was therapy, and I was convinced that it did not work and would share that with anyone, that therapy is a waste of your time and your money. I don't feel that way now, but that's how I felt back then. And so I kept going to therapy, not really seeing any results. And so she wanted me to see the psychiatrist that also worked in her office. So I ended up seeing the psychiatrist, and she got me on multiple different medications. We tried everything possible for like the next 9 months to 10 months. We were just trying all different sorts of concoctions of medications. And it got to the point where the psychiatrist sat down with me, and she was like, okay, I have tried everything that I know to be effective, and I'm not seeing any hint of result in you. I'm not seeing anything change. And the last thing that I can really think of is, can I pray for you? And at the time, if you would have asked me, I would have said, yes, I'm a Christian, but I wasn't really following God. I was just kind of doing my own thing. And so when she asked if she could pray for me, I was like, I really don't have anything to lose. And so I said yes. And so she began praying for me, and I am not a crier, or at least I wasn't a crier at that point in my life. And she started praying for me, and immediately, like, just the tears began to flow. And it was like the first time I felt like I had a breakthrough, and that there was potential for me to feel again. Because I really, at that point, felt like I didn't feel anything. I kind of felt numb to the world. I didn't feel happiness. I didn't feel sadness. Like, I just didn't feel anything. And so getting that, like, that moment to just break down and just cry, it was, for me, it was like, okay, like, I can be healed. And so she invited me to her church, which is a mega church in the Atlanta area. We have several of them. And at the same time, my mom was also invited to that same church. I had no intention of going because I didn't really want to go to church, I guess. And then also I didn't like the fact that it was a mega church and it was really big, and I just didn't want to be a part of it.
Right.
So I had initially said I wasn't going to go, but then when my mom got invited to the same church by someone different, we figured we would give it a try. And so we went for, like, that first time. I sat literally up as far as you can. It's kind of like an auditorium sort of structure.
Right.
And I sat all the way up at the back, close to the door. My thinking was, like, I don't want anyone stopping me from leaving if I don't want to be here anymore. And so I sat through the service, and that was the first time that I really felt like I encountered the Holy Spirit and started to really see some changes in my life. And from there, my husband and I, we would go on to actually lead in that church. We led in the youth ministry or young adult ministry for several years, and it really just became a part of who we were. And then fast forward a couple of years, I ended up having a second son. Everything went like as perfect as it could go. I didn't have any anxiety, any depression, like everything went super, super well. And so we fast forward a couple more years, and now we have 2 sons. I've always wanted a daughter. And I say to my husband, like, let's just try one more time and see if we can get that girl. And so he agreed that we would try this one more time. And within I would say like the second month of trying, like I was pregnant. And so it just happened so quickly again. And I think it kind of felt like it was spiraling out of control. In my mind, I thought, okay, we start trying in like March, and then maybe by like June, July, I'll be pregnant. And it just happened so quickly that like I just didn't mentally, I feel like, have time to prepare. And from like the very first pregnancy test that I took with my daughter, I just felt like this anxiety, like I needed this to be accurate. I needed to know for sure that everything was going to be fine. And so I ended up taking so many pregnancy tests. It was probably like 10, maybe even close to 15, just to confirm that I was pregnant. It was like, it became an obsession for me. And I would take it like day after day, just making sure, am I still pregnant? Am I still pregnant? Okay, I am. And then I moved on once I started to show, and I'm like, okay, I'm absolutely pregnant. I moved on from that kind of obsession and moved on to health stuff, and like really wanted to make sure that like I was healthy, baby was healthy, that we were going to be okay. And then I moved on to the gender, and I got so many different gender tests done to see what I was having. I didn't believe the first time, and so I went a second time, didn't believe the second time, went a third time, still didn't believe the third time, and then went a fourth time. Like it was just like this whole like just needing constant reassurance that everything was going to be okay. And it got to a point where like towards the end of the pregnancy, I was just really experiencing severe anxiety every single day. Any little like tingle in my body, any like floater in my eye, like anything was like a big deal. And I was sick, I was dying, I needed to go to the hospital. Like I just constantly felt like my life was like just in jeopardy. And I remember multiple times going to the hospital. One time I actually did end up having the flu, and I had to stay in the hospital. But outside of that, the other times that I went, which was probably like 3 or 4, there was nothing. Like literally nothing was wrong with me. And so when I actually got to the point where it was time to like go into labor and give birth, I experienced my very first panic attack, which I will say before this experience, I didn't even know that anxiety was real, which is, it sounds dumb saying it, but like I really didn't believe it was like a real thing. I thought it was just like, oh, I mean, like everybody experiences anxiety, like, yeah, get over it. Like that was my mentality. But when I had that first panic attack, I was like, oh, this is different, because I truly thought in that moment that I was going to die. And my nurse kept reassuring me and telling me everything was going to be okay. And then after I had my daughter, I had several more panic attacks. Like literally every single day for like the first week of her life, I had a panic attack, and sometimes multiple panic attacks. Like it was absolutely miserable. I wasn't sleeping well. I was just like so concerned about every health thing. I was concerned about me getting sleep. I was concerned about my daughter, because in the hospital they did hearing tests on her and she didn't pass the test. But they said it was pretty common. But in my head, I'm like, okay, I have a deaf child. I'm dying. Like everything is going downhill really quickly. And so I had gotten to this place where I just felt like I was out of control. I didn't know how to handle it. I decided to go back to a therapist and back to a psychiatrist and again get on all these medications to the point where it just really numbed me out. And I just didn't want to live that way. I remember sitting on the side of my bed, like on the floor with my husband, and telling him, like, if this is what life is, I don't want it. Like, I do not want to live this another day of my life. This is absolutely terrible. And so I set out on this journey of trying to defeat postpartum depression without medication, because I knew that the medication, it was helping me not to experience anxiety, but it was also helping me not to experience anything. So it was just like, it was a two-edged sword. Like, do I want to feel everything and feel really anxious and depressed, or do I want to feel nothing? And I honestly would have rather have felt everything and feel the anxiety and the depression than feel nothing, because I felt like I couldn't even connect with people when I felt nothing. And so it just felt really isolating and lonely and even more depressing than feeling all the anxiety. And so I really felt like at that time, the Holy Spirit walked me through a process of defeating postpartum depression. And it was a process that was really focused on surrendering what control I thought I had, which turns out I don't really have any, surrendering that to God and focusing on my nutrition, what I was putting into my body, the supplements that I was taking, getting off the medication, focusing on how I was spending my time. I used to spend so much of my days just really focused on anxiety and trying to fix it. And by trying to fix it, I was actually making it worse. And then really just diving into my relationship with Christ. Those three things really carried me through. And so prior to me ever going through this second bout of postpartum depression, I really felt like I was supposed to serve women with postpartum depression, but I didn't know how. And it honestly sounded like really depressing to me. And I'm not like a really down kind of person, and so I like to see the positive side of life. And so I just didn't really feel like I could do it. And then after going through the second experience, I really felt like God equipped me with all the tools that I needed to be able to give that to someone else to help them through the journey, the same way that I felt like I had several people step up and help me through my journey. And so last year in October, I started the nonprofit, and I really feel like God has really just brought people along to be a part of what we're doing. He's shown me all the board members that are supposed to be a part of this, has helped in terms of like people coming in to donate and to serve in different ways, and really allowed us to, at this point in time, we're able to provide free one-on-one coaching to women who are struggling with postpartum depression, which is something that I really felt passionately about and wanted to be able to provide that service. So it's just really, it's been an experience for sure. But the last 3.5, 4 years have really been about me just figuring out, how do I get through this and get through it like and experience joy at the same time, but not just like get through it like, oh, I survived that period, but like I actually want to live and feel like, okay, that was worth walking through. That was worth living through. And part of that is that I get to use it to help other women, and that really gives me a lot of purpose for that struggle that I went through. So I know that's a really long way of answering your question, and I always answer that question so long. But yeah, that's how we started.
That's okay that it was long. I'm sure that anyone who's listening will understand, first of all, that was beautiful. It was so hard for you coming through that from the beginning, because I know in speaking with our postpartum moms, many of them are experiencing something that's totally foreign to them. You had experienced it once, and then you came through with your second child, and you weren't expecting what was happening the third time. But first of all, congratulations on your daughter. I know I had two sons, and I always wanted a daughter. And even though my daughter is a grown woman now, the boys know, everyone knows, love them all, but that was such a blessing in my life. And then after having that blessing, to experience what you had with the anxiety, probably put on more anxiety because you didn't want that. You wanted to enjoy this blessing that you have been waiting for all of your life. And so not being able to do that, I'm sure just added on, because that's what I get from the conversations I have with our moms. And while you were speaking, I was thinking about your son and about your husband and about how they must have worried over you, just if you were worried for yourself. And that's something else our moms kind of, they get into. They're so stressed sometimes, so anxious, have so many phobias, so to speak, that repeated actions that they're taking. They don't have really time to care for themselves or anyone else, but yet the people around them are just as deep into it as they are. Now, I read your story, and like I said, I've listened to it many times, and I know you were blessed to have your mom there for support for you for some of that time, and that was a big blessing. And, of course, God always puts in your life who you need in your life when you need them, whether or not we recognize it. They're going to come. When you ask, you are going to receive. And so you were just blessed enough to open your eyes and see that this was coming, but you had your mom there. So what advice would you give to postpartum moms? If there's anything brief you could tell them about what their family members, or tell the family members, actually not the postpartum moms, what they could do to better support a mom who's having her postpartum period and it's negative.
There's two sides to this, and I actually am in the process of writing a blog on this right now. But number one, if you are a mom who is struggling through postpartum depression, speak that out. Share it with someone. I cannot tell you the night and day difference between my experience with my son and my experience with my daughter. And the only true differentiating factor there is that I shared the journey the second time. The first time, I kept everything a secret. No one knew what I was struggling through. My mom was there. We physically lived in the same house, and my husband was there. We physically lived in the same house, but neither of them knew the struggle that I was going through on a daily basis. They didn't know how hard it was for me every single day. They knew I was going to therapy and trying out some different medications, but they didn't know what I was feeling like. And so that second time that I experienced it, I was like, okay, I know what doesn't work. Keeping it a secret is not the way out. And so I'm going to share this message publicly with anyone who will listen to me. And so literally every friend, every family member, everyone, and obviously everybody's journey is different. You choose who you want to share with. But I felt that there was so much power in just sharing my story because people came out of the woodworks to say, hey, I've been there too. I want to talk to you about it. And I know one of my cousins who I had never even, we had never had a relationship prior to me experiencing postpartum depression the second time. And I recall just sharing on Facebook, and she was like, hey, can I call you? And she wanted to tell me about her story of how she went through postpartum depression and how for months she had to sleep in the bed with her mom because she was just so anxious and was afraid of what she might do during the night and all these things. And just her sharing that little bit of her story helped to normalize what I was going through. And so I didn't feel like I was a crazy person.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
By sharing with you. And as you read Christina's story, then over to our website, FOZA Inc., you'll know that we did not have that blessing. We had the first experience, and it was our only experience because she did not share with us, and we don't know that it would have made a difference. We do our what-ifs now with what if we can get our audience in front of people like you who will tell a mom and will tell the family members around her. We know that she's pregnant, so at some point we know she's going to be postpartum, and no matter how that experience turns out, we know she's going to be postpartum. So if she's not speaking, if she's not sharing, if she is smiling, if she is appearing to be okay, we have to be very vigilant because we know that she may be experiencing something that she's not telling us about. And by listening to you, a maternal mental health wellness coach, and someone who's had that experience, we feel like we're bringing you in that path. We feel like God has put you in our path because that's what we want our moms to know, that they're not alone, that what they're experiencing is unique to them, but yet it's the same in many ways as many other mothers have experienced. And not just birth moms, but foster moms and anyone who finds themselves in a birthing situation or with a small child, and men as well. Yeah. This is a life-changing opportunity for awareness with you. We know that you have a busy day. We know you have things coming up, but what I wanted to do was share with the audience something that they might not know. Anyone who hasn't been to Arielle's site, you just go in and you click on podcasts, more than 70 podcasts specifically, not just generals, just specific issues that you might be experiencing. You can even pick them out by keywords you can go through. And so if you take a relaxing few moments and visit defeatppd.com, there's so much you can see there. And Arielle, I just want you to, I know, like I said, that you have another pending appointment. Go ahead and just tell us anything that you'd like to say to end the call and to, just to uplift a mom or uplift a family member.
I'll go with uplifting the family member, because I do feel like it's a journey of not just the mom, but of everyone. But just be encouraged. If you do have a loved one who is struggling with postpartum depression, I feel like the best thing that anyone ever did for me was, number one, pray for me. You can do that publicly with this person, or you can do it privately. Either way, just keep her in your prayers. Pray for her night and day. Petition for her wellness. Let her know that you are there for her and that you want to stand in the gap in whatever ways you can. And one of the actual physical things that you can do is just being present. If you are somewhere within her vicinity, you can just be present with her, or you can be present on video call. You can be present on a phone call.
Yes.
There are so many ways that you can just be there, and that takes away that isolation, and it brings light into that situation. And so I truly believe that the enemy works best in darkness and when you're alone. And so,
Absolutely.
Again, like I said before, share your journey. If you're a mom, share it with someone that you love, someone that you can trust. And then if you are on the receiving end of someone telling you that they are struggling with postpartum depression, just step in, stand in the gap for them, whether it's doing something that they didn't ask you to do, like washing the dishes or just coming over to watch the baby so they can take a nap. Whatever that looks like, just stand in the gap and pray for them, because they will get through it with the right support and with being able to talk to people and just having those pieces in place. They can get through this. And it doesn't have to be a forever thing. I've worked with so many women who had postpartum depression 5 years ago, and it's become this major depression that they now live with. It doesn't have to be that way. Get the help that you need, because there are people who truly care about you, people who don't even know you, like myself, who care about you and want you to be well. So,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Stand in the gap. That's the phrase that we'll take from this. Stand in the gap. And I mentioned your website and some of the many resources you have there, but will you tell the audience in your own words how they can find you and why they should go ahead and do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on Instagram. We post there quite a bit. It's just at Defeat PPD. Or you can go to our website, which is www.defeatppd.com. You can find out all about our current programs that we have. We're totally revamping things right now and getting some other programs that are going to be more attractive to people who maybe don't want to speak on the phone and do the one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
So we have some programs coming along there. And then resources that we just want to get into your hands. All of our content is heavily discounted because we are a nonprofit. And then, like I said before, our one-on-one coaching is absolutely free. So we just want to be there to support you however we can.
Well. And there's always room for knowledge in the way of finding peace and harmony in our lives, especially during the postpartum period. So, FOZA fans, that's it for this episode. We want to thank Arielle, and I want to thank you on behalf of all of our donors, sponsors, and supporters for tuning in. Now, I hope you gained some knowledge that will bring you self-care, and the self-care that we always say is not selfish. Self-care is not selfish, and you richly deserve it. If you are a family member or a caregiver, I hope this information will serve as a positive resource. And once again, I want you to take a relaxing moment and hop over to defeatppd.com. And it's never been a better time to be your own advocate. And Arielle has so many resources there and so full of everything you need. If you are not looking at Jesus Christ as your pillar, you're looking at a force that's larger than yourself, that's greater than yourself. We believe that Jesus Christ is that pillar, but you must find support all around you, share what's going on, and FOZA is going to continue to bring you ways to stop the stigma, the silence, the suicide, and the suffering that often accompanies maternal mental health issues. I want you to please visit our website, FOZAinc.org, for an on-demand version of this podcast and other podcasts. And please consider this: every donation or contribution you make goes towards bringing awareness to maternal mental health. This is Paulette Smith signing off in loving memory of Christina LaShawn Thompson Adams. Bye-bye now.